the Lotus returns, and they can make it thunder. It's just this way at the Dim Carnival.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Dim Carnival. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And on this episode, we're talking about none other than the second full-length album LP release from
Record
Dark
disc.
Lotus, entitled Black Rain. And we're not doing a track-by-track, we're doing one of our patented minisodes that we're most known for.
Patent pending.
Yes. Well, yeah, don't. We're already registered with the patent office, so don't, stay away from there because that's our jurisdiction. So, so we're not going to go track by track, but we are going to talk about the album. So, guys, I want to know because if I had ever listened to this album before, it was pretty cursory. As I was listening to it, I was like, oh yeah, I think I remember you listened to this track before, but I definitely never paid it a close listen before. So I want to know, one, what your guys' familiarity with this album is, and then how you enjoyed it overall.
I actually went back and looked through my CDs because I felt like I had this album because I don't know where I heard it. I didn't. Although I do have to say I'm missing a big chunk of CDs, so I could have still had it, I guess, and lost it. Like I lost my Twisted Mad Myth and some other stuff. I think they might be in a box packed away somewhere. Although, so I was familiar with the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And
weird freaky hand.
Yeah. I stared at that a lot while listening to this album.
That was my very first note. What is this hot dog finger cover?
And the chocolate flavored starfish.
Right.
Yeah.
It just looks like a packet of sausages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't it look like a
Sausages,
plate
yeah.
of sausages or something? They're all slick
Well,
and shiny.
Yeah, and
One black
like
rain on his fingers.
the pinky is like really stubby and fat,
Like
and then
a
the
thumb.
other four fingers, yeah, it looks like a thumb where the pinky's supposed to be, and then like the other fingers are all elongated and like Slender Man's hands or
I can't
something.
believe you guys are just dunking on this poor person's hand.
It's so gross. I'm sorry. I find it really off-putting to look at.
You made me feel bad all of a sudden. I was like, oh, I didn't think about it being a real person's hand.
It's definitely like photoshopped, They just like click the
How
warp.
so?
You kiss my ass.
Oh,
Kaboom. I don't think that I had ever heard this album before. I definitely had heard tracks of it one time in one single listen. Maybe it might have been Bill riding in your car or something, pulling it up on your iPod. I can't imagine what.
My car.
What's that?
Not my car.
No, you don't have this album?
I mean, I have the album, but I didn't ever listen to it. I definitely wouldn't have ever put it in my car.
I mean, when you had you remember the olden days back in
Oh,
2004
yeah, iPod,
when your
iPod
whole
style.
record collection was on that fat ass iPod that you had?
Yeah.
The thing was like a brick. And so yeah, I think that might have been, I kind of have this vague image in my mind of hey, maybe I should check this out. And not, just not really thinking very much of it at the time. In 2004, I was way past ICP.
Sure.
Unfortunately. And I would say that how I feel about this album is reflected in the lyrics to the chorus of That's Me, which I think is the fourth track. Where Jamie Madrox says, "You think you know me and my juggalo sound, and at the end, they all want to be down." And that's how I felt like each each track, or over the course of the album, I would listen to a track and I'd be like, okay, you know, like this is a project. I'm gonna get through it. We're gonna listen to it. And then in the middle somewhere I'd be like, hey, this is kind of growing on me. And by the end I'd be like, damn, this is really good. Which is almost identical with what Steve said, I think, last week. But yeah, I just felt like I'm not really ever in a I feel like you have to be in a particular mood. I feel like I have to be in a particular mood to listen to this record. And I wouldn't say that I'm not. I would say that I'm not normally in that mood. Like, it would be uncommon for me to want to put this on, but I had a really fun time listening to it. I'd say that I really enjoyed it, and I could really picture, like, if I was looking for a particular type of feeling, that I could potentially come to this record. It doesn't seem like glowing praise, but I actually did really like it.
Well, let's check in with Steve then.
Well, I kind of felt the same way. I didn't recognize any of it, even though I recognized the picture. I really liked a lot of songs off of it. It could have been just a bad timing of me, like, being reintroduced to this album, based on stuff we've just listened to that I absolutely adored, or just like work, personal life things. Like, I was having a hard time getting through it, but everything I listened to, I really liked. Like, there's a couple songs, there's like more songs I could be like, I just don't like this song and this song, and overall think it's a solid album. I don't know that I'd go back and listen to it ever again, though. And that sucks, because it's actually a pretty damn good album, though. And I don't know what it is about it that is making me be like, meh, because there's some solid stuff throughout a lot of it. There's some great music. There's some great flows. Monoxide, again, makes me be like, fuck, this dude's so awesome. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel bad, but I don't know that I would go back and listen to it.
That's very interesting. I'm very surprised by both of your reactions. I thought you guys would be more on the end of, like, how you were after we listened to Hatchet Warrior. Because for me, this album was released, let me pull this up here. This album was released on April 6, 2004. It's released 3 years after the first Dark Lotus album. And it was produced by a bunch of different people. It wasn't just, unlike Hatchet Warrior, which was a Mike P thing primarily, we got, and it's hard to find correct attribution track by track. I know that Black Rain, the second track, is produced by the ROC, who is, of course, an original member of House of Crazies with Twisted. So we got tracks by Fritz the Cat, we got tracks by Mike P, we got tracks from the ROC, we got tracks produced by Isham, Lavelle, we got tracks produced by Dark Lotus themselves. So it's sort of it's much more of a collaborative effort than, other albums around this era, which, Mike P was doing like 6 albums at one time. We talked about when we did Hatchet Warrior, but it's way closer to a Twisted album in that respect, like how Green Book had a bunch of different producers on it. In it, and the first Dark Lotus album, we had 4 tracks by Mikey Clark, and then the rest is Mike P. So I would have expected this album was just another Mike P thing. As I was listening to it before I looked up the credits, I just assumed that Mike P did this whole album too, because I feel like this album is remarkably consistent from one track to the next, and I feel like all of the songs pretty much sound very close to each other. There's not a lot of huge variance from one song to the next. It feels like a sort of Hatchet Warrior type Mike P thing, where it's just like someone was wanting to make a good rap album. So for me, it was a little bit, my only stumbling block with this, there were 2 stumbling blocks for me with this album. The first was, every time we feel like we're getting to an era where ICP is going to stop using like hateful slurs, they start using a bunch
right
of
back in, yeah.
So that's a bummer. That there's so many slurs and tough things to listen to all over this album. But for me, it was I found myself listening to this album a bunch in the background while I was doing other things, and in that respect, it felt like a really good really easy to listen to album that is good to play while you're doing other things. That's why I was surprised that, Ryan, you were saying you have to be in a specific mood to listen to this album, because for me, this album's much easier. It's not as memorable, but it's much easier to listen to than Tales from the Lotus Pod. I feel like, to me, it's a lot easier to listen to, because I feel like with Tales from the Lotus Pod, and, you know, Jay doesn't like to talk about that era of recording that album because everything was such a bummer and so negative, but for me, I feel like Tales from the Lotus Pod, those guys, and Mars was in the mix at that time. It was before ABK was officially a member of Dark Lotus. And then this album was made during the Shiny Diamonds era. So I feel like in Tales from the Lotus Pod, everyone was like, we're going to make the hardest shit. It's going to be a black magic album. We're going to get super wicked, and we're going to be like mega edgelord about everything on the album. And like, yeah, there's a lot of funny stuff on that album, but it is very much everyone trying to be like, let's be as gross and let's be as evil as we possibly can on this album. And on this album, it was just, to me, it felt like, let's just do whatever it is we do, but we'll collaborate on it.
Fuck.
And
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
Yes, definitely.
I feel like this album is so much more easygoing than Tales from the Lotus Pod, and like, maybe in that respect they're not like trying as hard, but that kind of makes it better to me. That it's like they're not like, oh, let's be so edgy and so twisted and so black magic. They're just like, let's just get together and fucking make an album. And yeah, there's some like dark stuff on here that everyone like. This is what happens when you have 6 people who do the wicked shit on their own, getting together and doing an album, as opposed to like 6 people who do the wicked shit trying to make like the wickedest album they can make.
I completely agree. I think that's a great take.
So to me, it was like super easy to listen to, not as memorable, but like I definitely like didn't have a problem with, like, I thought the music was all awesome. Like Steve said, the flows are really cool. So it's like, it just seems like if Dark Lotus made like a super chill album.
Okay, so we're totally agreeing. Like, I'm just saying things in a different way. So to me, the first Dark Lotus, just to kind of carry on what you're saying, the first Dark Lotus had a lot more like single tracks that I would specifically want to seek out and listen to. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one, there's definitely a few that I think stand up above the others for me, just in terms of like, I would listen to that as a single. Like, I would just go out and listen to that specific song. But by and large, I feel like it's more of an experience. It's more of like an album that you'd put on and have it be on and listen to multiple tracks in a row. And that's not usually a space that I find myself in these days, like in my life. But it was really enjoyable to just sit down and listen to it. And so, yeah, that's why I think I would have to be in a certain type of mood to like just sit down and listen to a record. Not so much like you were saying in the background. I could definitely see that though. But from my experience, like having the headphones on and sitting down and listening to it, and like trying to figure out the story of it or whatever was a really fun experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, did you hear the Hell House for sale?
No one can believe it.
Did you hear the Hell House for sale? Did you hear how much they want? How much they want? How much they want? How much they want? With the spirits. Hell House for sale. Did you hear the Hell House for sale? Into the bedroom. They say they found his wife's mangled body on the bed with 6-inch wounds in the back of her head.
Hell House was great. We talk about Hell House, oh gosh, way back on House of Horrors or whatever, right? Or is that what it's called? The same thing?
What?
Hell House?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Steve, what's that thing called in church where they have those scary rooms?
Those are Hell Houses. Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, I totally thought that when it was. I was like, oh boy, Hell House, or as Ned Flanders likes to say, a heck house.
Mm-hmm.
I like how on that one he's like, there's a chalk outlines on the ground, which seems to indicate that somebody may have died here. So there could be any other explanation.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff on this album.
Yeah, like I said, there is more songs I could point to. Said I just don't like this song.
Mm-hmm.
Than there are songs like that. Like most of the songs I enjoyed. I guess my point. Like She Was a song I did not like.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we could let that one go.
Well,
although,
so She was. So it's funny because there's She Was, and then like Darnell Dorothy is basically like a better version of She Was.
I like Darnell Dorothy, actually. That was okay.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
It's like Moaning Myrtle.
It's just like it.
Pass the Axe stood out to me because it was I felt one of the few songs that sounded different than all the other songs on this album because it was faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't necessarily care for it that much, but I was like, hey, this is different.
Ringing endorsement.
There were some cool lines in it though. There's some good stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, there's a popular sample in that one as well. Beethoven, Ninth Symphony.
Yeah.
Beef oven.
He's sampled in that one. There's some interesting samples on this.
Yeah, you found. So I was pretty blown away when you came at us on a text with like, "Oh, check this out," and like I was like, "Oh my god, you found this sample! Amazing!"
So at the very end of Black Rain, there is a sample of a guy singing "How Do I Know Whether or Not This Is My Real Life?" I think that's what he's saying. And that's a clip from a song from a musical called Lost Horizon, which came out in 1973, and it's a remake of a Frank Capra film from 1937.
How do I know this is part of my real life?
Yes. That's Peter Finch singing that line there, and it's about this movie is about a plane that crashes, I think, and they end up in Shangri-La. This plane crashes in the Himalayas.
You just described the English Patient.
Well, it's also kind of Indiana Jones too. And so he's like in quote unquote Shangri-La, and if you go and listen to that song, the song is called If I Could Go Back. And the music was written by Burt Bacharach, which is pretty hilarious. Yeah. But he's basically singing about being in Shangri-La and whether he can determine if there really is a reward for his life or whatever. It's basically the fucking carnival. Like, it's fucking crazy. And I just don't know if that's a coincidence or something that they found later because of the word Shangri-La, or if that really, this movie or story somehow influenced Violent J.
Maybe this was like Violent J's favorite shit growing up.
Right. I mean, it could have been.
Yeah.
Anyways, Roger Ebert completely ethered this film, especially the music. He quoted in his review, he said, "I don't know how much they paid Burt Bacharach, but it was too much."
Amazing. I miss Roger Ebert.
Yeah. So that was pretty wild. It was kind of cool to go back, and I actually watched a lot of that movie. It's kind of weird. But yeah, that was the first thing that I found that I dug into that I thought was really, really cool. And there's a couple of others.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, on My First Time, there is an intro that's a spoken word, and it's a poem about like shambling bones or something going up into the attic from the cellar. That is a poem by Robert Frost, which I understand from my reaction already having revealed that it's Robert Frost is not known to you guys. It is a poem called "The Witch of the Coos," or Coos is apparently how that word is pronounced. I've always been calling it coos, or reading it as coos. Yeah. It is the poem which inspired the character Rhea of the Coos in the Dark Tower series.
Wow.
So there's another Dark Tower connection for you, Bill. All things serve the beam. Yep,
it's true. Wow. Let's hope ICP gets some music in when they do the miniseries. Have Jake listening to... Jake's probably a juggalo. Like, he lived in the 70s, but he would probably be a juggalo.
I mean...
Troubled kid.
Sure.
Did you guys see the trailer for It? The second trailer?
I didn't, but I saw the recut with, with
Brian
Patrick.
Gilbert. Or Patrick, yeah. Patrick Gill.
Yeah.
Very good.
It was hilarious. It looks fucking scary, man.
Yeah, I mean, scary as it is, I guess.
That movie really fucked me up. Speaking of movies
The new It?
The original one when I was in fourth grade or whatever. Not the, I guess, yeah,
When you were
the
a child.
Yes, the 2-part series that came out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I still get weirded out whenever I have to step over storm drains.
Mm.
Well, guys, my favorite song on the record was Kaboom.
Shake the ground. I can make it thunder. Kaboom! Shake the ground. Explosive, and I can split the ground. I'm that crazy motherfucker that just walked into town with a backpack full of C4 in your backpack full of whack raps.
I fucking love Kaboom. I could listen to Kaboom all day long, over and over and over again. It's an outstanding song. I guess I'm the only one that felt that way. But it's, I really love it because...
Steve started playing things close to the vest in this episode. I don't know what's happening.
Well, I liked how Shags said that he'd go to hell and pimp the devil like a biatch. That was funny. That was my takeaway from Kaboom.
Nice.
Well, I like it because they all... Well, so I guess every song is pretty high concept, or has a defined concept, a high concept. And so in Kaboom, they all each take a verse to figure out a different way that they can make a loud sound. So Jamie Madrox,
pretty good.
Jamie Madrox is throwing lightning bolts. That his whole verse is about that. Jay has a sledgehammer. Monoxide Child. Oh shit. Is he clapping? Can't read my own notes. Shaggy stomping the ground. But Blaze and ABK, they're just kind of hanging out and watching. They don't make things. They don't. Oh, C4. That's what Monoxide does. He's like got explosives. So they all make booms in different ways.
This seems reckless.
They all make different booms, is what I wrote.
Good note. I heard a voice that said Zool.
I don't know if I have a favorite song on this album.
My favorite song is probably well, here's something. I really like the first track. I really like Under the Lotus.
Yeah,
Lotus.
that's
really
pretty cool. Yeah,
just like as far as like mood setting and everything, it's just pretty great, and it's got some good. It's got what this coterie of individuals comes the closest to for good singing.
There's quite a bit of singing on this.
yeah.
I kind of felt like, and it's not right. It's not that it's bad, but it always sort of jarred me. Like it was almost like just like a shift in tone really quick, and then it would go back. And so it wasn't like I thought that it was bad, but it just felt like it didn't always fit.
Well, my favorite track is probably either Black Rain or Past the Axe or Dornell Dorothy, honestly.
When I met her, it was January, middle of winter. I was alone up in my attic when nobody could hear it. Was just a cold gust of wind. I felt somebody pass through me. When I opened up my eyes, my only love appeared to me. Long hair and she was bald as spots, and her skin was just as soft as a parking lot. And it was love at first sight.
But I mean, like, again, it wasn't something that I was like, I wasn't really ever able to like really closely focus on it. I just feel like it's a solid, like, complete album.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Like, I don't feel like there are really like singles on this album. I feel like they just made an album.
I think that's what kind of makes it hard to talk about too, is that there's not really singles and there's not really a story or a narrative. The closest thing that I could come up with is it's obviously Black Rain is on, the hand is like out with the black water pooling in its palm or whatever, like the hand is outstretched into the black rain, and they say that like black rain is coming, or it's the symbol of like this change that's sweeping across the world, or it's the herald of this impending change all across the world, and then rain shows up, I guess, in a few different ways throughout the album, and then at the end there's like rain and birds, like birds chirping or whatever, as like the rain is fading, passing by or whatever, but it's actually leaving everything better than it was, just not what I was expecting.
So what we had way back when we talked about the liner notes to Lotus Pod, I looked at the liner notes for Lotus Pod, and it was a lot of, Lotus Pod is completely chock full of Egyptian imagery, and there's pyramids inside it and hieroglyphics, and then this album, the liner notes have like either Mayan or like why am I blanking on the area?
Aztec.
Like Aztec?
No, not Aztec. So it looks sort of Mayan, but it also looks sort of what do you call the area where like Thailand is?
Oh, like
see, yeah, see,
Indonesia,
yeah, like Malaysian,
South
Indonesian,
South Asia.
yeah. So it looks like it could be either of those. So if it is like Mayan or like Aztec, it could be like the theme of the album could be like apocalypse, like apocalyptic, like 2012 sort of like, you know, this album came out in 2004. So probably not 2012 sort of stuff, but like it seems like it could have a apocalyptic, when that would go with like the Black Rain sort of thing of like, you know, something's coming to like wash things away. I don't know. But you were saying like it was tough for you to sort of discern like what the theme of the album was, and like there's at least like some imagery for this album. And we had talked before about how, you know, Jiggles, or one of our listeners, had said every Dark Lotus album has a different set of like iconography associated with it.
Right.
So when we get to like Opaque Brotherhood or whatever, we'll see what that has going on.
Right, and it's interesting that they're both pyramids, right? Different kinds of pyramids.
No.
Wasn't the first one pyramids and the second one?
Yeah, the first one's pyramids.
This one's
Second-
not pyramids?
It's not pyramids. It's like statues.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll find a picture of it and post it on the
You
Instagram.
should do that. If you can't find a picture, I will take a picture for you, because I'm a nice person. I kind of like Hell House a lot.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking if I had a favorite song, it was that one.
Huh. Hell yeah.
It made me think of the Verbs a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah.
Picturing that.
Made me think of Monster House.
Nice.
I think ABK doesn't ABK say something about Amy, the woman that he kills is Amy. I wondered if that was like an Amy's in the Attic reference.
It's actually Airline Amy. Weird Al's. She had my seat back in the full upright position.
That's
his dirtiest
different.
song.
That's not
like
Airline
Weird
Amy.
Al's dirtiest song.
That wasn't Airline Amy. That was Albuquerque you just quoted.
No, it was Airline Amy.
Well, I think I'm right. It's
I
just
had my
for-
tray table up and my seat
Yeah.
up in the full upright position. He had his tray table up because the airplane was crashing on his way to Albuquerque.
But he still says something about full upright position in Airline Amy because it's his dirtiest song.
I
He's talking about
know.
his
I know.
Talking about
Yeah.
that.
I know. That's off of
Airline
Amish
Amy is off
Paradise. Off the deep end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't step to me.
That was close. Well, you're the one who
God.
quoted the wrong lyric.
How dare you? We're gonna get fucking Weird Al on this podcast. So we'll see. Anyway, Ryan was saying.
Sorry, Ryan.
Oh, he just said, so they're like, in Hell House, they're all like in different rooms, and there's like a seance place down in the basement and whatever, but ABK comes in through the attic. He like steals a ladder and comes in through the attic, and there's a little girl named Amy up there in the attic.
Yeah,
So
good job. You did it.
I figured it out.
What album was Amy's in the Attic on?
Oh my god. It was
Terror Wheel or some bullshit?
that sounds right. It might have been, could have been on Forgotten Freshness Volume 1 and 2? No, it was before that.
We've done
So
a
it's a
lot
deep
of
cut.
songs on this album. On this.
We've recorded 67 episodes of
Yeah.
this
We're getting
podcast.
We're almost there.
Right. I like to put marks next to the songs that I like, and I don't know why, but like Corrosion is one that I also really liked. I put the music rules. It's got a scratching intro.
I'm all in the dark now, so dense and damp, but I can't move shit and I'm falling apart now. Been rotting away in the grave since 96. I hope I'm not forgotten, even though my body's gone. And when I'm on the bottom, bury me with a lotus crown.
Corrosion was a good song. I have that on my notes.
I like the I like the concept of that song a lot.
Is it that just like you get older? You just get older and you get wrinkles and whatever?
And also that, like, you know, just like being part of like the world like has a corrosive effect on you.
Mm.
Steve didn't like that.
No, that was a deep contemplative. Yeah. I was also thinking about My First Time, which was a pretty disturbing song.
Yeah.
And I thought they pulled it off kind of well to be disturbing.
There's some, yeah. So I guess that's another thing to kind of harken back to what I was talking about at the beginning. That there's some fun on this album, but not very much. I think it's a mostly serious album, and so that makes me want to take it more seriously when I'm listening to it as well. So maybe feeling a little bit different than I have been feeling while listening to other of the recent, especially the last few albums that we've been listening to.
Yeah, but
a lot more fun.
At the same time, I still feel like it's not as serious as the first Dark Lotus. It's not as funny and it's not as serious at the same time.
Yeah, well, because it's not as like highlighted or whatever.
I just think that Mars brought like such a different energy to the whole Enterprise that it probably affected everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wonder.
so-
For sure, definitly.
Because
I feel
like Twisted weren't happy about him being there in the first place, and he was so like going for it, you know.
Yeah, he wasn't holding back. I did like, and there was a couple of tracks, and this is one where it happened here on My First Time, where even though there's a strong theme throughout the track, one or more of the guys would kind of flip the script a little bit. And so on this one, My First Time is it's all like each of them describing the first time that they killed somebody. Mm-hmm. But Blaze's verse is all about him getting killed.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
And they do that on She Was as well.
She was a butter baby.
Right. Where they're each rapping about killing a woman, but
Right.
Shaggy's the she that he's rapping to is his axe, and the she that Blaze is rapping to is his gun.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, when I was listening to that, I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, yeah, it's almost like these guys are like, we rap so many tracks about killing women, you know, like, ugh, this is so stale. Like, let's switch it up a little bit. I'll be creative. Come on, guys, we don't always have to rap about killing women.
Just most of the time.
Just most of the time.
Yeah. Good call. Yeah, I did appreciate that song wasn't entirely about killing women.
Yeah.
But it was still, kind of a drag to listen to.
I was pretty disappointed that there's a fair amount of backmasking on this album, and I wasn't really able to find anything. And so I imagine maybe it's just not that interesting. There's one where you can actually, I feel like I can hear the part. It's on Consume Your Soul. At the end, it's backmasking, and it just says I consume your soul. I'm pretty sure that's what it says.
But you didn't bother to do the work to reverse.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's always on YouTube, This is the first time I haven't been able to find it.
I think this is around the time when people stopped caring as much. Both inside and outside of the Enterprise.
Right. It starts to lose its sheen a little bit when you put those into every record. My favorite note that I wrote was for the song The Walls. And I wrote, it's about walls. Because in this one, it's just each of them rapping about walls.
Mm-hmm. Violent J is really going to be upset if there's a crack in his wall because he's going to get lost staring into it.
Because Shaggy's boarded up behind it with Fago.
Yet again, a Amontillado situation.
Right.
So, final judgments on this on this album. It's okay, I guess. It's our consensus here.
I'm not mad. I listened to it. It does have a nice, like, kind of happy, fun song at the end. I feel like it's kind of interesting.
Sure.
On my ass, I'm floating spinners on my power chair. I'm Violent J. I could never die anyway. Even when I'm gone, all you gotta do is hit play. I'm talking Lotus. Don't want you, but the Lotus do. So bring the wicked shit. We're gonna bring it too. We like, hey, we coming your way.
But yeah, it ends on a like a happy song where they're saying like, you're such a scrub and everybody hates you. Like even death doesn't want you, but we like you here when you're a juggalo or whatever. Dark Lotus will take you.
So I was sort of expecting that you guys would be like you were when we listened to Hatchet Warrior, and that you guys would be like, "Oh, this is awesome! I wasn't expecting it to be this good. I wasn't expecting to like it this much." So, to you, what was the difference between this and Hatchet Warrior?
I heard Hatchet Warrior first.
Yeah.
I can only hear something for so long, but before I'm like, okay, I can't like keep liking things that are super similar. And I feel like ICP albums change enough in between them, and even Twisted albums do, and some of the stuff that we're listening to can be very different than each other. But like as we've been doing these like shorter, like doing an entire album, and they're things we're not very familiar with, I feel like a lot of them just end up kind of feeling the same to me. And if there are two bands that sound similar and they're both very good bands, the first one I hear will be the one I'll always listen to, and I won't listen to the other one. It's just my nature.
So you feel like there are similarities here between...
I definitely. I mean, it feels like it falls into the vein of a lot of the other stuff we've just been listening to and praising. I don't necessarily know why I didn't care for this as much, other than I guess I'm just kind of tired of it. Also, like I said, just what what's happening at work and different things in my life affects how I take in media. And so I kind of feel like I may not be giving this album a very fair shake, because I kind of didn't really even want to listen to it, but I knew I had to, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? So,
well, I thought that Hatchet Warrior was like fun music to listen to. It like was music that made me want to move around and engage with the lyrics, and it just made me, it put me into a more like energetic state, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. It just made me I was just feeling a lot more. And this one to me feels more, I don't know how to describe it, as like cinematic, or it's more like it is more uniform across. And I think that unfortunately I experienced maybe some of the things that Steve is talking about. It does a little bit of disservice to this album, that it might sound so similar within itself, and that it's kind of not super different from what we've been listening to before. But I would say that even more, to me, it's just that it's like serious. And so it's just not as fun to listen to. Like, it's good and I enjoyed it, but I didn't listen to this music and go away being like, yeah, man, awesome. You know? It was just like, whoa, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Fair enough.
And I would have liked it. I kept feeling like 16 tracks is too many, or however many. It's like 15 tracks. And I thought it would be interesting, because I remember a certain point in my life, whenever like a Wu-Tang album would come out, or something that I was like super hyped about, when I was a teenager, you grab it and you look and you see how many tracks. And like, you know, like the double Wu-Tang album is like fucking 34 tracks or whatever. You're like, yeah, that's awesome. And sometimes you grab an album that you were looking forward to and it'd be like 10 tracks. And you'd be like, fuck, man, I only get 10 songs?
Yeah.
But
now you're at this point in your life where it's the exact opposite.
Well, now I'm old.
You gotta listen to all this bullshit.
Right. I mean, it's not that. It's just like, can you whittle it down, my man? Yeah. Like, make it just a little bit more focused. And it could have been...
Although when a Wu-Tang album is 34 tracks, it just means there's 17 skits on it.
Right, that's true. That's not even a diss. That's just true.
Yeah, what were you saying?
I don't know. I think if it was 10 tracks and there was a better narrative more cohesive narrative running through it, then I think I would have liked it a lot more, even if it was the similar level of quality. I think the quality is high, and it was difficult for me. I was thinking, like, who stands out to me on this record? And it was really difficult for me to do that. I will say that I am continuing to grow a greater appreciation for ABK, because I feel like he and Blaze do a really good job on this record in particular about being a varying voice. Maybe not from themselves, but from the rest of from the other players in the album.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated that. There was a few ABK verses where I was like, damn, I can't believe I never even noticed this guy before.
I was watching a Twisted interview, and they were saying that, like, if you consider, Twisted to be the number 2 of Psychopathic records historically, then they were like, Blaze has got to be number 3. Like, he's got to be the number 3 guy because he's like original Dark Lotus, and you know, he brings so much to the table as far as like concept and like talent level and everything. And I was like, yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. But I mean, I know you guys like, you know, ABK better at this point, but that's just because of like, you know, you like him better.
I mean, I'm not sure. I liked his album better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cool.
They're great. They're a great pair. I would have liked to see them on this recent tour. They didn't come to California, so
yeah,
or Southern California.
True. Well, thanks for joining us.
I want to say one more time, the music is really on point on this, and it's a shame I don't know who produced which tracks, and it's got all these different people on it, but music's really solid.
Yeah, the music's very, very cool. Steve, any final thoughts? You said your piece.
I'm done.
I quit.
I'm done with this album.
Well, thanks to everybody for listening. If you have further thoughts or if you want to tell us something that we may have whiffed on, email us at dimcarnival@gmail.com. You can check us out on Instagram and Twitter at dimcarnival. You can check me out on all social media at Sundown Motel. Next week, guess what we get to do, guys? We get to talk about Hell's Pit. So there's a slight chance that this episode will be delayed, but if it's not, the next time we join each other, we will talk about. You guys want to talk about the first 5 tracks, including the intro?
I don't even know what's going on with that album.
All right, so let's shoot for the first 5 tracks. So that would be Intro, Walk Into the Darkness, Suicide Hotline, CPKs, which is about some delicious pizza, I'm sure, and Truly Alone. So, yeah, we'll finally get to it, guys. We'll finally get to the second and final and real 6 Jokers card. And just to remind everyone, if this episode isn't delayed, the Hell's Pit album will mark the point after which we will be taking a hiatus of an indeterminate length, because I'm going to have a kid, so we'll see how that goes. But if we'll see you next time, we'll see you then. Until then, I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And the Hell House for sale. Did you hear the Hell House for sale? Did you hear it?
How much they want?
How much they want? Steve, do you remember those Warrior-style Royal Rumble posters that they would make sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
So good. Everyone's just walking in street clothes, but also just their tights.
Yeah.
And leather jackets.
One of them will be holding their fist up and clenching their wrist.
Jake the Snake's got a snake. Man, imagine if you went to do a street fight with somebody and they had a snake.
Oh yeah, he's got a snake.
Don't fuck with that guy.
I'm gonna punch that guy. He's got a snake.